Hi there, welcome to the Gardens and Graveyards channel. My name is Charisma, and today we're meeting in the garden and we are gonna clean up behind the greenhouse. We're standing right behind the greenhouse and we have a raised bed right behind me that's full of sunflowers, but they're dead, as you can see. And I'm gonna harvest the stalks because I saw somewhere on an Instagram story about people taking the stalks, drying them, and using them for steaks, which I think is brilliant. I cut one down maybe 2 weeks ago and just left it out here to dry. It's nice and hard, and it's still a little bit green, so it still needs to dry some. We'll probably put them in the garage so that they don't get rained on and rotted. But you could see it's like a, I don't know, I guess about a quarter, like a US quarter or US dollar coin size, whatever circumference that is. And this one is about 8 feet tall. So some of them are a little bit thinner, a couple more about this size, and I just think it'll be an interesting experiment if we could use them for steaks in the future. So I'm going to do that and get the rest of this bed cleaned up for the season. And then over on this side, we have a bunch of raspberries that need to be tied up. So it's not time to prune the raspberries. That's a winter project, but they're very unruly and they're just going to get all like weighed down in the winter with the rain. So I feel like they're going to be a lot easier to handle right now while they're pliable, while the branches can be handled and bent, because as winter comes on, they get harder and more brittle. So we'll get into this project in just a minute and I'll give you a little bit more detail, but I am going to cut out all the dead canes because there's no reason to wait until February to cut out the dead canes. They're dead. They're not doing anything. So I'm going to cut those out, tie up the new canes, and then we'll just see what happens in February as far as any additional pruning. But yeah, I have a whole bunch of them that are like, there's some that are hanging over and leaning on the top of the greenhouse, and there's a bunch that are going out into the pathway, which is just, it's time to like do something about them because we're done with fruiting, they're done flowering. Like, it's just time to let them be in their winter space. I'm ready for it. So first we're gonna cut down the sunflowers and deal with that and deal with this bed, and then we'll get into the raspberries. Now that the big tall sunflowers are out, there's just a couple more getting ready to bloom here, and 2 more in the back, and then we have this Proven Winners Suncredible Saturn. Is that what it is? I think so. Yeah, Saturn. And they've been blooming like crazy. There's buds all over them. I have about a week more of sunshine. So I'm gonna see if sun alone is going to pop these flowers open, or if they actually needed more heat. Because we're definitely getting cold at night now. Typically like 45, 47 degrees Fahrenheit. But I also know that these Suncredibles could be perennials in my zone. I'm right on the borderline. So what I think I'd like to do is dig this up and put it in a container and put it in my greenhouse for the winter and see if I can overwinter it. My greenhouse, this is the bed we've been working in. This is the greenhouse, the back of the greenhouse. It is a Canopia hybrid, so it's got the clear sides and it's got the opalescent top, but it is not heated in any way. We do have it up on a foundation of cinder blocks, which does capture a little bit of heat in the winter time. It's also sitting on a paved patio, or like a concrete patio. So it holds a tiny little bit of heat in the winter, but mostly it's just an elaborate cold frame. So I do want to put some tender perennials in there, like this Suncredible. I have 2 more in the front yard, and a few other things that I'd like to see if I could overwinter for this year. And if it's successful, great. If it's not, it's an experiment, and it'll be fine either way. Anyhow, we'll be getting to that soon, so stay tuned, and we'll be putting tender perennials in pots and putting them in this greenhouse for winter storage. Other than the Suncredibles, we also have a pumpkin in here. It is not flowering. I doubt that it's going to fruit. There's a couple of flowers right here. I don't know. My squash that's back there just keeps rotting before it gets to any size whatsoever. So I don't know. Not the best year in squash, but the sunflowers that I cut back, some of them I just left the stalk cut here, left the roots in, and then this coming spring, when this bed is completely empty again, we'll be filling it up to the top. We'll leave those roots in there to just stabilize the soil and, you know, keep the nutrients in the soil. Basically like a no-till kind of a deal. They'll just rot and feed the soil. This bed was done culture garden style, which means the bottom half of this bed was all wood, was all like branches from around the garden, and hay, or straw rather, and then soil. And this is the 3rd season, I believe. And you know, you could still see there's a lot of soil sinkage, so I'm not putting anything permanent in this bed until I see that the soil only goes down like 1 or 2 inches, not 7 or 8 inches. In the meantime, we've just been growing annual crops here. The sunflowers were really good success this year. It was really fun. And then I'll show you what I've got the stalks on the other side of the greenhouse. So for the next couple of days while it's sunny, I'm just going to leave them here to dry. And I have a couple of small ones that can also be used. And then we'll put them probably in the rafters of the garage just to keep them, you know, fairly straight without damage. It's just an interesting concept. I did cut down a couple of sunflowers earlier and used the stalks. That's what these shorter ones were. I used this stalk, just stuck it in the ground, and you can see it's hollow in there. And then I tied a string around it and held up other sunflowers that were kind of flopping over. It's kind of like bamboo stakes, but sunflowers. I'm interested to see how long they last, if they last for a whole season as a stake or what they do. Today we're gonna continue on in this area and we're gonna clean up these raspberries. So like I said, it's not time to prune, but you can kind of come in here and you can see these canes that are all brown. They did have growth from this year, and then you can see the fluorescence on the top here. This is where it flowered and berried. This tells me, because I have June bearing or summer bearing raspberries only, this tells me that this plant will not fruit again because it only fruits once and then it's done. So what June bearing raspberries do is they send out floral canes and primal canes, and the primal canes are the first year, which is like this one. It is white, it is dark green, and it has no sign, it has cold signs, has no sign of previous flowering. And this, if this stem stays, this will produce flowers and berries next year. This stem, which is more green, and if you follow it along, it gets beige. And then if you come to the tips, it has the flowers, it has an old berry. This will not flower again next year. So it will just die over the winter, and I don't need to keep it. So I'm not gonna go combing through all of it today to get rid of every last bit of the floral canes or the second year canes, but I do want to prune out a little bit of it and really just corral next year's growth. So like this will have berries on it next year and it's not tied up. That one going out into the walkway, that one, these ones, all of these will get berries on them next year. And so what I like to do is bend them down in an arch, and then they get tied to a string or wire that is attached to that pole and that pole or post. And right now I only have like this kind of string that they're on, and next in the winter time Spencer and I are gonna come in with cable wire, so it's a lot stronger because now that the berries are mature, they're a lot heavier, they get a lot more berries, there's a lot more foliage, and so they need a stronger structure. But my goal today is just to clean it up, just so it's not like this crazy wild berry patch, and we can navigate around the garden without getting our clothes snagged or our eyes poked at. right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 5 to 8 canes and gather them and bundle them together. I'm going to do these. And then I'm gonna go do the raspberries over on that side, and then we'll do the top piece. So now that we have them in 4 little bundles, we need to contain the top growth. Let me show you from this perspective. You could see how they're just kind of all directions, and this is how we get into the back, is around the back side of the greenhouse, and that means I have to duck underneath these, which is not ideal. So we are now going to take all this growth and bend them into arches onto the top string, at least for the winter time. I just have a handful of these like clip thingies, and they're not super strong, but they will do the job until we have a more permanent structure. When we put in the wires, I'll be using more of a soft wire. I just don't have any left. I used some leftover ones that I had out here already on the bottom parts of these stalks, so those are good and strong bundled. But these that I'm gonna bend down, we're just gonna put like half as many, maybe like 3 stems in each one of these, and then clip it onto the top string. I am using rose gloves because raspberries are thorny. They don't have big thorns like blackberries, but they have a lot of tiny sharp hairs that get in your skin really easily. So I'm gonna go on the other side of the fence and bend, and you'll be able to see the process. So you can see basically what I did is just took the canes that were really tall, bent them over in an arch, and attached them with these little guys onto string. And as the season continues on, the leaves will drop, they'll turn yellow, they'll drop, and we'll just keep this area weed free and debris free, and then we'll probably mulch up with some compost in the wintertime, reassess in February or so as far as if there's any more canes that need to be removed, and obviously a stronger trellising system. All right, so now you could see how these raspberries are like nice and tidy. They're no longer climbing over the greenhouse or poking anybody's eye out, and they just look nice and neat, and kind of create little windows into the garden, which is kind of fun. Do that more purposefully. Maybe I'll do that next year. Anyhow, so yeah, that's much better, and I can clearly walk between the greenhouse and the raspberry row without getting poked. So I think I mentioned that these are June bearing or summer bearing raspberries, which means that they come up one year on a cane, they leaf out like these, and they do not flower or fruit. And then the second year, these that did not flower or fruit will flower and fruit. So all of this that's new growth that we trellised up today will fruit next summer. They'll give me a big bumper crop in June, and then a smattering of raspberries for the rest of the summer. And then these will all get cut back, and the next year's growth we'll be doing this next fall. I am in a zone 9A, so I don't get freezing temperatures. I was reading that in colder temperatures, it's a really good idea to just go ahead and leave the dead canes on your raspberries until the spring. And I think that's because with the freezing temperatures, when you open up, like you cut that dead cane, it opens up like a straw. And you could have freezing temperatures go down into that straw and freeze your roots, which would kill the plant. We really don't get freezing temperatures here. We rarely get below like 39. I mean, it's like to us freezing if it gets to like 32 degrees. And if that happens, it's late January, mid-February. So I have many months for any of the stalks that I cut today to heal over, and I don't have to worry about it. I just find cleaning it up in the fall works for me and for my schedule and my space, because I can't just leave things just like growing over the walkway all winter long. That's just like not fun, and they'll just get all wet, and so then they'll be sharp and wet and snagging on our clothes. It's just like, let's not do that. So yeah, that's our cleanup project for today, getting things just kind of settled in for winter time. Of course, you know, we'll be pulling out the squash in another month. We'll be pulling out the remnants of the sunflowers once they've bloomed, and in a video here very soon we'll transplant that Suncredible so that it can winter over in the greenhouse. Yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you were inspired, and I hope that you learned a new way to care for your raspberries if it pertains to your environment. Until the next video, I hope you keep celebrating your life, and see you in the next one. Bye.